Hi, I'm Jadon, a product designer with SiteStacker. Today we're going to take a look at creating and publishing dynamic content. Dynamic content consists of things like missionaries, projects, or opportunities. There's usually a whole lot more of dynamic content than there is static content, and it's being updated on a consistent basis. As a reminder, static content is any text, photo, buttons, or front-end pieces that don't have a bunch of data stored in them. We will just be covering dynamic content in this video. Let's start by opening our Site Planner component. I recommend watching the Overview of Site Planner video, as well as creating and publishing static content video. These will both set you up for success in order to learn and understand how to publish and create dynamic content. We're going to start by dropping down our site channels here and getting everything set up to begin working. Today, we're going to be working in several different folders on the Content Explorer side. Like I said, dynamic content is a mix of different things. It's missionaries, projects, opportunities. These are all considered dynamic content, except they're different types of content. So if you look under type, you can see that there's missionary, which is considered dynamic. There's article, which is dynamic, and there's project. These are all the same kind of content, but they're all different types. On the site plan side, just as a reminder, this is our canvas where our pages are and where the published content is going to be sitting. We're going to be working inside of this training folder and inside of this page titled Dynamic. I'm going to open that up. So let's review what we're going to walk through today. Here we're looking at a slider with some missionaries inside of it. This is an outcome that is published probably the most. It's not always missionaries. A lot of times it can be projects, opportunities, articles that you'll put in a slider, but it's definitely the most popular view for publishing dynamic content. Below that, we have the content individually published. An example of how this could be used is if you had 3 featured projects or 3 featured events, and you didn't really want it to be in a slider or to randomly populate, but you had 3 specific items you wanted to publish. I'm going to walk you through that as well. And below that, we have the hero view for a project, which is used a lot of the times if you're featuring a project on a home page or you're doing an appeal page for a certain project. So this one is definitely a good one to know how to publish and create. Then below this, we have 2 different views, and these are actually the same project as you see above. So the nice thing about dynamic content is you don't have to recreate the project every time to publish it. Of course, there's going to be data or information attached to that, such as people who have given to that project, so you don't want to consistently create a new project for that reason. And that's why there's so many different publishing outcomes within one item. So these 3 views that you're looking at here, the hero, the box summary, and the goal meter, are all using the same item. Of course, today we won't be able to get through every single publishing outcome because there's many, but in the description below we have a base template publishing guide that will walk you through every single view class that you can do with dynamic content. Today we're going to cover the basic and most commonly used ones. We're going to start by walking through how dynamic content looks in Site Planner and really how it's set up. Starting off, you'll have your content imported when you're first moving into your installation, but in the future you may need to create an article or create a project, so it's important to know how to do this. So we're going to go ahead and look at a project here that we've already created. I'm going to open up this water wells one by right-clicking and selecting Edit, and you'll see it's set up very similar to a static item. So everything that we have here on the right side is actually for back-end purposes, except there is some stuff in campaign info like the fixed amounts that you can have on a project or some of the goal amounts that, depending on the view that you select, this will populate on the front end. But I can assure you everything on this left side will show on the front end. So for example, the project that we're currently looking at is water wells. I've searched it here in the search module, and you can see that you have the templated title, summary, and the image. So this is what it's looking like in the back end, and this is what it looks like on the front. When I select that, you have a detail page that is automatically generated for this specific project. So anytime that I create a project in Site Planner, I don't have to create the detail every time. This is a templated page that basically pulls everything that I've put in here, and it just generates this. The only thing with this is you don't have much room to edit this page. Other than what you can put inside of these fields, that's about it. You can't change any of the layout or get rid of the start a campaign button without adjusting the template. So you'll notice when we take a look at an article or a missionary, it's going to look very similar in the back end. You're going to have your title, your summary, just key differences that are contextual. So like the author, of course you'll have that for an article, but all these fields are very necessary to what you need for that specific type of content. So in an article, you're missing the campaign info over here, but it's nice because they all look very similar, so you'll start to get used to how to create content very easy. And here we have a missionary. When you're looking at content here in the back end, and you may want to preview what their detail page looks like. And as a reminder, that detail page is this page where you're specifically looking at that project. The way that you can preview that is just right-clicking and then going down to preview and selecting that specific page. It's going to have your site in parentheses. There we go. That pops it up. We're going to go back into that water wells project, and I'm going to show you how to add fixed amounts. So we're going to go under campaign info and select manage fixed amounts, and this is going to allow us to add those different amounts. I'm going to go ahead and do that, and we'll see what that looks like on the front end. You just put the actual amount and then the label, and you can set the default. All right, we've got our amounts in, and I'm just going to save, and let's refresh. There you go. Your amounts pop up, so you can change that and then just hit give, and it goes right to your cart. When it comes to dynamic content, folders serve a little bit more of a purpose. You can actually set default content to a folder. So for example, if I want this Africa folder and everything in it to have the same cover photo, then what you can do is right click on the folder, go down to manage default content, and you're going to have a blank item kind of pop up here. And what this is basically like the canvas for the default content. So anything that I do here, I'm going to end up saving and overwriting down here, and it's going to overwrite everything that's inside of this folder. So let's go ahead and go to this cover image, and I'm going to select this forest photo. And so the cover image is this image that you see here. Now that water wells project is not necessarily inside the Africa folder, so this change will not be implemented, but just as an example, that's where the cover image is populating. Now if I were to go down and select save and overwrite, you're going to receive this pop-up menu here, and this is where you're going to check the fields you want to overwrite. You want to be very careful what you decide to overwrite, because if I selected body, usually the body, the summary, the title is very specific to the project. So you don't want to overwrite something that you meant to keep. Most times you'll overwrite something like an image or a cover image. So what I would do in this case is select cover image, and then you're going to hit save. I'm going to go ahead and cancel out of this because I don't want to implement this change here on this installation, and close the default content. Most times when it comes to default content, you're going to actually be publishing full folders instead of individual items. Now, there will be times where you'll publish individual items, like for example, here we have the individual item published 3 times in different formats, but most times you're going to publish it in a slider like this. And what this is a whole entire folder pulled into a slider wrapper. So let's go ahead and walk through some of this publishing outcomes. So I'm going to be publishing over here in the dynamic page that I've created, and I actually already have my wrapper set up here. So what we have is a wrapper with some top, bottom, side padding, and then we have this wrapper with equalized children height view class applied. And what that's doing is it's equalizing the height here so that these gray cards are all evenly aligned. If I didn't have that applied, which I can actually just remove that, and I'll show you. It's not going to work quite yet because I don't have my missionaries inside of the wrapper. But once we go ahead and publish those missionaries, I'll show you what it looks like when we have that view class removed that we just took out. Inside of that wrapper, we also have another wrapper, and this is the slider wrapper. So you can see we have the slider view selected, And I walk through this in another video called Overview of Wrappers. So if you have yet to watch that, I definitely recommend watching it because it's going to give you some prior knowledge to kind of understand what we're doing here. We're then going to go over to our Content Explorer. I'm going to close this project folder and we're going to publish our missionaries. So you have an option here to either, if you have it set up similar like this, we have active, inactive, you can just publish the active folder. Or if you have like featured missionaries, however you want to go about it, it's going to be specific to you and your organization. But in this case, I'm just going to pull over the missionaries folder entirely, and we're going to put it inside of that slider. And this is where you're going to get the view or the publishing outcome. In this case, we're publishing in a slider, so it's going to be a very specific view we want to choose. Usually when you're publishing in a slider, you're going to choose summary. You may have another outcome in your head that you want to publish, and you can use any of these, but most times you'll see summary being used in this case. And that summary view is going to look like this. So you're going to have your give amount, a photo, title, and a summary. The view class, similar to what a static item and a wrapper have, is basically just the styling on that specific item. So we've chosen what we want that item to look like, but now we're going to get more specific. The only view class options you have here are really the background color. And what that is, it's just the lower part of the card. So this is light gray here, and so I'm just going to choose lighter gray. So usually you'll only mess with label in view class on the assignment view like this, but when it comes to dynamic content being published on a folder level, there are some settings below here that you can kind of mess with. There's the folder settings and the tags, and this is really going to allow you to, and the visibility conditions. Most times you'll mess with folder settings and tags, and this is just going to allow you to narrow down that slider so that it publishes only specific content, or it publishes the content maybe in a specific order. So you have the ability to add pagination. You can order it by the published date, system name, or randomize it. And then you can do the direction, ascending or descending. This limit is also very important. So if you have thousands and thousands of missionaries, you probably don't want to leave out the limit because you're going to end up having a super slow loading page. And having that many missionaries is kind of unnecessary publishing because you can reroute them to a page where you're going to have a view all kind of missionaries thing instead of publishing every missionary within that slider. So we're going to go ahead and actually just throw in, let's do limit of 6, and then we're going to order by random. So if you're limiting to only 6 and you're doing a slider that appears that every missionary is in it, but you want to limit it a little bit, but still randomize it, that's going to be a good way to go about it because you're still going to get different missionaries to pop up, but it's going to be in limits of 6. The tags are going to allow you to choose what kind of missionary is going to show up in there. So currently we have some regions and some other specific tags, and you just want to make sure if you're selecting this tag that your missionaries have this tag on their profile. So in this case, I'm going to choose Americas. And there's even categories that you can add. So if you just want missionaries who have region tags, you can do that. But this is a specific region tag. And the tag categories mode is going to either choose the order, so it will put the missionaries with this tag probably first, or you can choose filter, which is ultimately going to filter out everything that doesn't have this tag. Let's go ahead and save. Refresh. And there we go. So it only has 3 missionaries with that tag, and so it ended up getting rid of the arrows because it's not really functioning as a slider because you only have these 3 missionaries. Now if I go back and I get rid of that and save, there we go, it adds back the arrow. You'll also notice, if you remember earlier, that I was talking about the equalized height. We got rid of that, and this is what it ends up looking like. So it's definitely an important thing that you add that to your wrapper because it's going to make it appear a lot nicer. When it comes to publishing any kind of dynamic content within the folder, it's all going to work very similarly. So you can pull over a projects folder, you can pull over articles, and you can still filter down on the folder and narrow down to the kind of content that you want to publish. We're now going to take a look at publishing individual items like this. So we currently have the wrapper already set up, and what it is just a dark background here, and then inside of that we have the actual padding, the wrapper with that padding applied. So we have centered and top bottom side padding, the equalized children height, so the cards are the same height, and then there's a 3 items row added. And so this means if you add in 3 items, it's going to set them all in rows next to each other. So if you can see in our example, we have all these items next to each other. So we're going to close this out, and let's go into our events folder. And we're going to publish these 3 items here into this folder. So you're going to get that assignment pop up, and you'll notice there's less amounts of views here. We're going to choose the summary in this case though. And then let's do the lighter gray. Or actually it looks like there's no color applied, so we can go back in, move that. And really it's this simple. You just drag over the item and publish it individually like this. The wrapper setup is where it's going to be the most important that you get it correct. So when I refresh this and go down, there you go. That easy. You just drag over the individual item into the wrapper. So we're now going to take a look at publishing a project in these 3 different views. So we're going to start with the hero view here. If we go into our project folder, we're going to drop down this general folder and use the help the helpless project. You can see if we look on the front end, this one's help the helpless. So I'm going to go ahead and open up that project just so you can take a look again at what an item looks like in the back end of Site Planner. We have our title field filled out, the summary, the body, and the image, as well as campaign info. We've set the goal amount and the monthly goal, which is very important for using that goal meter view. So if we go down here, and I know we're about to publish the hero view, but if we take a look at that goal meter view, it's pulling these items from the back end, and the amount raised is actually going to be pulled from the data of how many people have given or how much has been raised. Let's go ahead and close out of this item, and we're just going to drag this over into the dynamic page. With the hero view that we're about to publish, you don't need a wrapper, and this is similar to a static item. If you pull over the static item and choose that hero view, it's a templated view, so you really don't need any wrapper to style it, unless of course you're trying to do something a little more unique or get a different outcome than just the regular template. In this case, because we aren't dragging it inside of a wrapper that's already decided the position, we need to choose that position. So in most cases, you're going to use body or hero. Because this is further down the page and it's not concerning the top header at all, we're going to just choose body. And then on the view side of things, we're going to choose that hero view. If we open up our view class, this is going to allow us to narrow down on some of that styling. So I like to choose disable background resize because it's going to keep it from resizing. And then in this case, we're going to do small for the height, and H3 I think is good. Save and close, and let's see what that looks like. Perfect, looks just like it. Now let's take a look at publishing these 2 views side by side. So I already have those wrappers set up here. I have one main wrapper that's just adding the padding around both those items, and then I have 2 half wrappers, which these 2 are just going to set those items next to each other. So I'm going to drag the box summary inside of here, and we can actually open that up by double clicking, and we're going to title this box summary, and then that second one we're going to title goal meter. And this will just help us keep it more organized in the back end here. So I'm going to go over and drag this project into that first box summary wrapper, and under view, I'm going to select box summary. You'll see the view class field is blanked out, and that's because there's not much styling control here. So the box summary is templated to look a specific way. We'll save and close that, and let's go and refresh our page. There we go. When I select this more button, it's going to end up taking me to that detail page. If you add in a project goal and monthly goal, it's going to end up populating the goal meter to your detail page. We'll go back, and now we're going to publish the goal meter. So drag it over to your goal meter wrapper, and select the goal meter view. And this one does give you a couple view class options. You can choose the title size. You can choose if the title is clickable. So say you were just doing the goal meter by itself, you might want to do a clickable title, so then it will take you to the detail page of that project. In this case, we're going to choose no title. And let's save and close. Go to our page and refresh, and there you go. There's the goal meter. One last publishing outcome that I want to take a look at is the search module. And this one is also probably the most commonly used because the search module is going to ultimately allow you to search for the exact missionary or exact project or content item that you're looking for. And it also lets you filter down. So we're going to hop here in the back end, and this is actually on a different page here. If I click on the search results item here, which is this module, I can locate where that is in the Content Explorer. And you'll see that it's located under the modules folder, as in module type. We're going to go down into the search folder. So let me close that real quick so you can get a full view. It's under modules inside of search. So you can see this is all the same type of item. So if I were to make a search module inside of contributions folder, I could still do that by just searching search results. So these folders are not classifying what kind of module it is. It's really just for organizational purposes. So you're putting all of the events module inside of the event module folder, while I'm putting all of the search modules inside of the search module folder. I'm going to open up this search folder, and we're going to locate that search results missionary. So that's the one that is published on that page. So if we go ahead and open up that search module, you'll see in the module field, it's called a search results module. You'll want to make sure you change that view to responsive. Grouped and default are not really going to be used. And then you can name what your module is called. And below that, you're going to have all the settings where you can change how your module is published. So you can put a query placeholder, which is going to be inside of here. So you can see we have search by keyword. But if I were to change it to search for a missionary, save, and let's refresh. It's going to change that there. Initially show is going to make sure that those missionaries really, it's what it sounds like, initially show. If we take that away and save and refresh, they'll disappear. So it's really just depending on how you want your module to publish in the specific area on your page. You might put a search module on the home page with a title over the top, but you don't want every missionary to populate. It's just going to depend how you want it to look. You can also add a default limit similar to the folder, and you can choose whether you have a toolbar or if it's infinite paging. A toolbar will look like this. If I change the limit to 3 and select toolbar and save and refresh, you're just going to have 3 missionaries and then a toolbar with the different pages. And below this, there's actually a bunch of different configurations. Some are pretty detailed as far as, like, for example, the auto scroll is just going to make it so that when you search in the search field and then hit search, it's going to auto scroll down to the results. We cover a lot of this in a how to configure a search module video, which you can check out. But the last thing that I'll review here is just choosing the type of content. So in this drop down, of course, you can see what kind of content, but if you don't see it there, you'll need to go into manage configurations and you're going to hit add. This is where you'll put the name of the content type. So say missionary wasn't there already, I would put in missionary here, choose that kind of content. And this content type is going to be the same as when it says type right there in that field. That's what you'll look at. So we're going to select the content type, the site channel, which it's usually just going to be the one that you've been working in. The view, which you'll want to choose summary view most times when it comes to a search module. And that's it. You save and close. And now you'll see the item in there. I'm going to go ahead and delete that just because we already have it in there. But that is how you add it in. And you just want to make sure you select it. We took a look at the basics of creating and publishing dynamic content and some of the most common publishing outcomes. For more videos like this, you can go to sitestacker.training.